U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iran in maps. The U.S. and Israel have attacked Iran, hitting targets across the country. The office of Iran's supreme leader in the capital Tehran is among the targets, as well as military sites across the country. Iran has launched retaliatory strikes at Israel and U.S. bases across the region. Several verified videos from Tehran show large plumes of smoke rising above the capital. BBC Verify has obtained satellite imagery taken over the city this morning, which shows significant damage to part of the compound of Leadership House, the office of Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. The high-resolution image, captured by Airbus, shows blackened buildings, debris, and a column of smoke rising from the site. The location matches with verified footage filmed in Tehran this morning, showing the aftermath of explosions in the area. There are also images showing that the Narmak neighborhood, where former President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad lives, has been hit. Another strike hit the area around the Ministry of Intelligence. The IDF said its strikes in Tehran targeted locations where senior political and security figures were gathered. There are also reports of strikes elsewhere in the country. Military sites have been targeted in Kermanshah, Qom, Isfahan, Tabriz, and Karaj, as well as at Iranian naval facilities in Kenarak in the south of the country. A video sent to the BBC from the small city of Kamiran shows that an IRGC base was bombed. The IDF has warned Iranian civilians to evacuate areas near military sites and installations ahead of the strikes. Iran has launched retaliatory strikes on Israel and U.S. bases in the region. Explosions have been heard in Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and Kuwait. The UAE's state news agency said one person had been killed after Iranian missiles were intercepted. Bahrain's National Communications Center said the service center of the U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet has been subjected to a missile attack. It is responsible for operations across the Gulf, Red Sea, Arabian Sea, and parts of the Indian Ocean. Also in Bahrain, one verified clip, filmed from a moving vehicle, shows the moment a missile strikes. An explosion follows, sending fragments and debris into the air. Other verified footage from Bahrain shows dark plumes of smoke rising as sirens sound across the city. The spokesperson for Kuwait's Ministry of Defense posted on X that the Ali Al Salem airbase had been targeted by a number of ballistic missiles, but that Kuwaiti air defense forces had successfully intercepted them. Jordan, which borders Israel, said its armed forces shot down 2 ballistic missiles targeting its territory. An official told the AFP news agency there was no casualties, but only material damage. A map of fire and shadow. U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iran. At twilight, when the first shadows slipped between the Persian Gulf and the rugged Zagros Mountains, a map came alive. Cities, roads, rivers, mountains. All quiet at first, just ordinary geography. But then, like pulsing constellations on a night chart, symbols began to flicker. Explosions, sirens, missiles launched, airspace closed. On this map, the lines were not mere lines anymore. They were nerve endings in an anxious world. This was not just a map of place. It had become a map of impact. 1. Tehran, the beating heart. At the center stood Tehran, the sprawling capital of Iran, a city of highways, historic bazaars, and dense residential neighborhoods. Early morning on February 28, 2026, marked the moment the map first lit up. Air raid routes converged on the city, indicating multiple airstrikes that targeted strategic sites across the capital. Rumors of explosions near governmental and military facilities spread online as smoke rose over the skyline, signals encoded in pixels and lines that would later be recorded on maps around the world. If one traced the coordinates, the strikes seemed deliberate, hitting corridors of power, intelligence offices, defense ministries, and areas near Iran's leadership. Streets that were once ordinary became etched into history as loci of conflict. 2. Cities across the Iranian landscape. Spread across the country like stepping stones were other names glowing in red on the maps: Isfahan, Qom, Tabriz, Kermanshah, Karaj, Ilam, Lorstan, and more. These were not random dots. Each signified a strike, a blow aimed not just at locations, but at infrastructure, command centers, and the very arteries of Iran's defensive and military architecture. These were places where life continued long before the conflict, universities, marketplaces, neighborhoods now scarred by echoing blasts. On a detailed map, the lines told a chilling geography lesson, the reach and depth of a coordinated assault. 3. Airspace borders, lines turned red. But a map is more than dots and roads. Borders, too, became inscriptions of tension. Almost overnight, entire swaths of airspace were closed. Iran's entire sky was marked as off-limits, a red zone stamped with warning. Israel's skies mirrored the same, a layer of uncertainty beneath the usual commuter flight paths. Across these now silent air highways, civilian aircraft once flew in and out every hour. Now they hovered, grounded, like birds that knew the wind had changed direction. This was the kind of map that doesn't just show where planes can go but where they will not. 4. Beyond Iran, echoes over the Gulf. Just as darkness slanted across the map of Iran, another pattern began to emerge, this time beyond its borders. In Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, and the United Arab Emirates, symbols began to blink, missile paths traced outward from Iran toward these Gulf states. These were not markers of strikes on Iran, but signs of retaliation. Iran's missiles launched across borders at U.S. and allied bases in those countries. Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, Al Dhafra in the UAE, Ali Al Salem in Kuwait, the Fifth Fleet headquarters in Bahrain. On the map, these cities and installations, once mere points of strategic importance, were now connected by invisible threads of hostility. This was not a single battlefield. It was a region. 5. Lines that tell stories. Maps can show lines, but here, those lines told the story of escalation. A line from Tehran to Bushehr, economics and energy, where reports noted attacks near a port city and concerns about nuclear sites. A line from Tehran spreading west toward Iraq. Lines running south to Qom and Isfahan, the heart of industrial and missile production. Lines arching outward toward Gulf capitals. Each thread was a sentence in a sentence-long narrative. When diplomacy ends, geography remembers. Through these connections, war unfolded not simply as noise and explosion, but as a choreography, a latticework of places and priorities, fear and force. 6. Stories between the lines. Maps do not capture faces, but people nevertheless etch themselves into this cartographic script. In Tehran, a mother wondered whether her university-age child would ever return home safely. In Qom, bystanders recorded videos of distant flashes, not knowing whether the sound that followed was another explosion or thunder rolling beyond the mountains. In Dubai and Abu Dhabi, airport terminals buzzed with cancellation notices, diverted flights, delayed reunions, effects born not from local events, but from a map that had shifted overnight. In Baghdad and Riyadh, broadcasts showed government buildings lit up with alerts that once belonged only to military planners. And in Washington, military planners stared at screens where models shimmered against a